Hello, YouTube and internet. I'm here for my first official podcast. Well, second really after the pilot last week. And I want to say a few things about the previous recording this morning. I deleted it because when I listen when I listened to like the audio recording, it was just so terrible. I think it might be because I had my microphone too close to me mouth, so it came out awful, and I just thought it wasn't really good enough, and people could understand. Well, I couldn't, and even if people don't take much notice of my videos anyway, but I wanted to at least have it so that maybe it's better it's like better audio, so I deleted that and I'm recording it a second time. So I apologize for the inconvenience. Like, I sent a link of it on certain platforms. Even though I deleted one of them, I couldn't delete the others, and if you click on it and it's deleted, now you understand why. But don't worry, I'm re-recording it. But this time I've got the microphone not so close, so hopefully the audio's a lot better. And secondly, I also have the stuttering thing, but there's not really a lot I can do about that because it's just part of me. I can't help it. So that's the two things addressed. So basically, I also have this thing called story time with Guy, which is this thing that I decided to have because I wanted to have something. If Because basically, my even though it isn't as elaborate, I want to do this like the Jerry Anderson podcast, and that's with J- 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 Jamie Anderson, Chris Still, and Richard James. And Chris Still does that thing about the roundabout. He looks at a called the randomizer, where he looks at a random Jerry Anderson show and talks about it. So I decided to do the same thing, but this time read a story from one of my books. It'll typically be like Thomas the Tank Engine, either Ladybird Buzz book or even a Railway Series book. Or sometimes it can be like it isn't just Thomas, it can be other things as well. It could be like Buzz books because I have a few others outside Thomas. It could be um it could be a big chapter book like Jacqueline Wilson, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, maybe a bit of Roald Dahl, or perhaps sometimes maybe Demon Headmaster. We'll see. But if I read a big chapter book, I'll basically do it so I read one chapter per like podcast. So you have to tune in next week to continue the story, and I choose the books out of random. So once I've talked about it, I strike it off the list. Right. So what I was talking about last time, I was introducing myself. I was talking about why I have the username doing for me, and also just talking a little bit about my early years on YouTube. But I'm gonna talk a bit more about them. And I want to have a shout out to a couple of people that I knew from that time, including this one guy called Jordan Sheffis, who back in 2006 he used to be called JJ Sheffis, but his account got deleted and well, the original one, I think his second one as well. He's currently known as JJ Sheffis Free, and he did a few Thomas Wooden Railway reenactments, which really inspired me to use the Wooden Railway because when I started, I was mainly using take along. So I decided to use Wooden Railway, and I think it really inspired me. And even if he only did a few episodes, like to know off the top of my head, Thomas and Gordon, Edward and Gordon, The Flying Kipper, uh, Rock and Roll, and so Harvey to the Rescue, Thomas and the New Engine, Happy Day for Percy, which I think was interesting because he actually, because we didn't have all the pack vehicles then, like Learning Curve at that time just gave us Max Monty and like Byron to go with Jack and Alfie. So I think it was clever the way he did that. And also calling all engines, even if it was only up to even if it was only up to the storm part of that story. But I like what he did. I really love his vids. Oh, and he also did Break Van, and he also did Edward Strikes Out. Even that may be an infamous story, but that's neither here nor there. And he mainly did Tommy Trackmaster videos. Like starting in 2007, he started with Pop Goes the Diesel, and he did a whole lot more. And even though I tend to skew more to Wooden Railway than Trackmaster or like Play Rail, I was amazed with what he did with that. I'm not sure if Jordan Sheffis is still active now, but and even if most of his old videos are no more, there's some that are still archived somewhere. So wherever you are, Jordan, thank you so much for giving me inspiration, and I still remember you, and I'm happy that some of his videos we can still access, like couple of his Wooden Railway and a few of his Trackmaster, or like Play Rail remix, uh, or should I say Tommy? I just wish we could get the rest of them, the ones that aren't online right now. Even though I think on Facebook I was able to find his Close Shave remake, even if it's in 3 parts. I would like it if he still had all the other videos. But right, so that's one person that was a big inspiration, and another inspiration was this guy called Tom Dublin. Yeah, his account was originally called, I don't know what it was called. I think it was called Thomas K or Thomas Cho Knight 58 or Tom Chio 58. I'm not sure. It was a weird one, but from what I understand, I I found out his channel when he uploaded this tele recording of the episode Cranky Bugs. And I was very interested in YouTube because I was watching it was the first time I'd seen, like, the American dubs like, Thomas. Because I live in the UK, I mainly grew up with the UK dub, so it was the first time I heard the likes like, George Carlin and Alec Baldwin and Michael Brandon narrating Thomas, which is quite nice, though I have to be honest, I really hate Michael Brandon's narration, but, you know, But, and anyway, as well as that, he did all these other random videos with various bits, and he did a wooden railway series, but it wasn't big, but he didn't have a large array of toys, like, he did this series with the wooden railway stuff he had, plus he had a few take-alongs and a few trap masters. So I think it was interesting what he did with his limited resources, and the stories, even if they were very childish and basic, were kind of interesting and like cute. A video I remember was when he did a reenactment of the Flying Kipper, but it wasn't with like Thomas models. It was like this random high speed train, like bullet train engine in place of Henry. And I find it quite interesting as well, and I still have good memories of it. And as well, and as well, he and when he did his Wooden Railway series, the one episode I remember he did was called Three Bad New Engines, where where he had this like trio of like new engines coming to Sodom that caused trouble and chaos. The Fat Controller didn't believe them, and then they were found out, punished, and sent to where. And I find it really interesting because the engines he used for that, the new ones, were like the off-brand wooden railway stuff, like, and he called them Josh, Woody, and Gary. And I think Sir Gary, who was a diesel shunter, might have been some kind of nod to this other user combine harvester, or one that did Thomas the Model series. And he had a diesel shunter called Gary as well. So I think that's some kind of coincidence. And a shout out to him, and even if none of his videos seem to be archived at the present time, I hope we can find them and I can relive them again. And while I'm at it, I might as well shout out to some user called Thomas Fandom Archives, who takes like old videos that youth have done and re-upload them. I mean, on his channel, I'm not sure if it's one person or I'm sure it is who like archives. Like I noticed he uploaded things like he uploaded Turtles and Thomas's Southern conflict, plus Turtles, and even the Railway Inspectors like Hornby or like Bachman video see this Thomas Model Adventure series. So I'm actually happy that we have that guy, and I hope that he could maybe get some of Jordan Shepherd's old things, or maybe Tom Dublin's old things. He, but I kind of doubt it. I think he was on YouTube in like 2005 or to 2007 or 8, but I still remember him. But yeah, so it's nice to relive the old times, isn't it? Even if most users don't even know who I'm talking about. Right. So, and I also want to give a shout out to Smurfy Dan as well as doing wooden railway reenactments. I also did a lot of music videos with Thomas the Tank Engine footage, plus mixing it with footage from Sonic the Hedgehog, with the adventures of Sonic and Splat the two cartoons of Sonic from 1993. Maybe inspired by his like Thomas and like Mr. Men music videos, even though he mixed footage from Pingu or something. And again, I loved him back when he was Devil fan. So what else was I gonna say? I also want to mention Sonic the Hedgehog, the cartoons. Like I love the video games, like the Master System and like Mega Drive, and I love the old cartoons, but out of the 2 that came out in, like, the early '90s, I think Saturday was the more superior one. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog I thought was a bit weird, maybe 'cause it seemed very farm formulaic. It was mainly about Robotnik wanting to capture Sonic, scratch and ground to chase him. Sonic puts on weird disguises, and I feel like Sat AM was more structured because there was more of it wasn't just Sonic and Tails who were the heroes, it was like the freedom fighters as well, and I liked a proper group of characters, so rather than just t 2. And I find it a shame that we didn't see much of Sally, Bunny, Rota, Antoine, or Dulcie after that that AM. I know Sally had that weird cameo in that Adventures Sonic the Hedgehog Christmas episode, but I have a feeling that might have been fan service. Okay, I just wanted to mention that because the Not Whole Freedom Fighters are one of my biggest forms of inspiration, and I always aspire to be like them, especially Rota Walrus, who is one of the characters that I really absolutely adore. Okay. So shout out to, like, the earlier users, even if you're not there now, like Jordan Sheffis and Tom Dublin and, I think Smurfy Dan's still there, but the former 2 may not be, but I just wanna know that wherever you are now, thank you so much for giving me interesting content and basically making uh, basically starting a lot of that Thomas fan content. But I might even talk more about other users I remember from the early days in later videos. But now I think it's time for story time with Guy. And the first story is The Buzz Book, Thomas and the Breakdown Train. I wanted to choose one of the early stories. And this one has the cover with Thomas and James, and it's a deleted scene, I'm guessing, from Thomas and their trucks, because he's pulling a goods train and James is going past him. Anyway, let's tell the story. Thomas and the Breakdown Train. Every day the Fat Controller came to the station to catch his train. He always walked over to have a word with Thomas the Tank Engine. "Hello, Thomas," he says. "Remember to be patient. You can never be as strong and as fast as Gordon the Big Blue Engine, but you can be a really useful engine. Don't let those trucks tease you." There were lots of trucks at the station. They were silly and noisy and talked too much, and played tricks on engines that were not used to them. Thomas worked very hard pushing and pulling trucks into place, getting them ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. There was also a small coach and 2 strange things his driver called cranes. That's the breakdown train, he told Thomas. The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines, coaches, and trucks. Sorry. One day, Thomas was very busy in the yard. Suddenly, he heard an engine whistling. Help! Help! When he looked towards the line, he saw a goods train rushing come. He saw a goods train come rushing through much too fast. Thomas could see that it was James. He looked very frightened. He was screaming and whistling. His brake blocks were on fire. They're pushing me! They're pushing me! He panted. But the trucks were laughing. They were having lots of fun with James. Poor James went faster and faster. He was still whistling, calling for help as he disappeared down the line. "I'd like to teach those trucks a lesson," said Thomas. Then, then came the alarm. "James is off the line! Fetch the breakdown train quickly!" shouted one of the men. Thomas was coupled to the breakdown train, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," he puffed. "Bother those trucks and their tricks. I hope poor James isn't hurt," said Thomas as he hurried along. They found James in a bend in the line. He was in a field with a cow looking at him. James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. It was those wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good." Thomas pushed the breakdown tray alongside James. Then he pulled the unhurt trucks out the way. "Oh dear, oh dear," they groaned. Serves thee right," puffed Thomas. He was hard at work puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon. "This'll teach you a lesson, this'll teach you a lesson," he told the dear trucks. They left the broken trucks, and with two cranes they put James back on the rails. He tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. The Fat Controller was waiting anxiously for them. He smiled when he saw Thomas. "Well, Thomas," he said, "I I heard all about it, and I'm very pleased with you. You are really useful and James shall have some proper brakes and a new coat of paint," he said. "And Thomas, you shall have a branch line all to yourself." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Thomas, feeling very proud. Now Thomas is as happy as could be. He has a branch line and two coaches called Annie and Clarabelle. Uh, Annie can only take passengers. Clarabelle can take passengers' luggage and the guard. They're both old and need new paint, but Thomas loves them very much. He puffs proudly backwards and forwards with them all day. He's never lonely. His friends Edward and Henry stop quite often to tell him the news. Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine, is always in a hurry, but never forgets to say "whoop whoop," and Thomas always whistles "peep peep" in return. And that was Thomas and the Breakdown Train. And what do I think of the story? Hmm, not bad. It's one of the earlier stories written by the Reverend W. Awdry. It's actually in the Railway series, the fourth story of the second book, Thomas the Tank Engine. And if you know that story, which I'm probably sure you do, it's where Thomas has gone through all of his trials and tribulations in the first three and somehow matured a lot. And he rescues James and he moves up from Station Park to having his own branch line. And I like that book. And I don't know if I want to show the pictures because but I'll show you some of the pictures. Even so, yeah. Even if it is a bit weird how they have a few season two uh pictures as well as season one. Right. Start. Okay, so so what stories would you like me to read next week? So please leave your comments below. And if you enjoyed listening to it, what do you want me to talk about and say? Or what do you want me to do at the podcast? I'm really interested in what you have to say. So, like I said, please, drop a uh, so drop a comment below, and also if I leave if I leave it on my social media, please leave comments there. Please try and tell me what you'd like me to do. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. And I think we've come to the end of this. So, well, I'm gonna upload this every Thursday. So tune in next Thursday and see you later. And goodbye, internet, and you. So goodbye, YouTube. This is me signing out.